Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Sin.
Hi, everyone. And welcome to another exciting episode of What, Where, Why of Bloodborne. And today we're gonna talk about Vermin.
Vermin are described as something that rides within filth and is at the root of man's corruption. That's how Volta describes them. And he gives you a rune. And when you wear the rune, you find vermin, which are little centipede things, right?
Mhm.
They're all red centipedes, and you find them inside bosses. So the way that vermin are described in the script is like it's the word vermin. It's a very general term. And in the Japanese script, it's even more kind of general because it just calls them mushi, which is a word for bug. But it writes it with these corner brackets around the word. If you're familiar with like the way that Japanese uses corner brackets, it does that kind of similarly to the way that English would use quotation marks. So it's like it's written like in the blood you find like the quote unquote bug, right?
Mhm.
So I get the impression that like it is supposed to be a little more broad than just there is this specific kind of centipede that we call vermin. Because you'll know, like pre DLC, pre Volta, pre Vermin, there were those maggots that crawled around.
It's big maggots that look like snakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you find them, like you said, in Canehurst.
Mhm.
You also find them in the cave under Yosefka's clinic, right?
Yes.
Those are both places where there's a lot of blood lying around.
Mhm.
You also find them inside of two of the creatures in the game. So you find them
Oh,
inside of the
in
silver
Lawrence?
beasts.
Lawrence has one?
Yep. Yep, the bloodletting beast has one.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. So the silver beasts, some of them will have the maggots in them. And when you're fighting them, the maggots will actually pop out of their throat and try to bite you.
Mhm.
And when you kill them, if you kill them with something that's not a flaming attack, the maggots will burst out of the corpse and you'll have to fight them separately.
Oh, that's right.
And then the bloodletting beast fight turns out that there is an enormous one that also kind of comes out of his throat, except that happens after his head's fallen off. So you get this massive maggot that is just like replacing the creature's head. And also in the wound on the bloodletting beast's back, there are a whole lot of little tiny ones with wings that will sometimes fly out and try to bite you.
In real life, those guys live in fish's mouths.
Yep, that's where I was going.
Oh, teamwork.
I think it's like fair to say that the little centipede things at Volta's like, yeah, when you get a lot of corrupt blood, there's these weird bugs that live in your system. And also the maggots are probably related. So that's why I'm saying, like, the term vermin is probably quite broad. It probably encompasses a number of, like, weird sort of parasitic organisms, of which these are two. And the name mushi, right? We've said that it means bug. But there is a Japanese medical text from, I think, about 500 years ago. I want to say up front, I have no idea if this is a direct reference. I don't want to be one of those people that's like, I found something that vaguely looks like something in the game, therefore Miyazaki was directly referencing it, and I'm smarter than you. I'm just saying it's kind of interesting that they line up like this.
Okay.
Where there's this medical text called the Harikikigaki, and it's a book of what it purports to be like these weird germ creatures that live in your body and cause various ailments. So it's like if you've got like, a sore leg, it's this creature. If you've got like, breathing problems, it's this creature. And they are
Mhm.
drawn very similarly kind of to the vermin. Like it's like a weird, like a worm or a centipede or a weird little bug that's living in your body and making you sick. And I don't think all of them, but most of them have the prefix mushy in their name. So it's like If you've got, like, dysentery, it's this mushy that did it. If you've got, like, deteriorating vision, it was this mushy that did it. And it's just kind of interesting that, like, there is this book that lists all these ailment-causing creatures that are called mushy. And then Bloodborne shows up, and it's like the problems that are arising from this corrupted blood that are, like, causing ailments in people, that are making their eyes rot out, that are making them hungry for blood. Those are caused by something that is called mushy. And like you said, they are in the mouths, like fish. What Sin's talking about is it's a species of parasitic isopod that goes inside the mouths of fish, and it eats their tongues, and then it sits in the mouth where the tongue used to be, so that when the fish is eating, it can just crawl up and grab the food that the fish is chewing up with its teeth. So it's living off the fish like that.
It's living the dream.
Living the dream. So if you find a silver beast that has the maggots in it, this is actually very kind of hard to pull off. A lot of people never see it. If you can find a silver beast with the maggots in its throat, and it's not aggroed, and you manage to get close enough to it without it being aggroed, and spin the camera around to look down its throat like you're a beast dentist,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually see they're nesting in its throat, and they look like those parasite isopods. Like, if you look at them side by side, it's the same setup where, like, this creature has stuff living inside its throat, popping up into the mouth, kind of living off the runoff of the food that it's eating. So, like, that's something that I think you can pretty definitively say, yeah, that was the point of reference. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
May you please tell me the vermin consistency?
Well, the ones that you step on, they make a kind of crunching noise. They seem to have, like, a carapace, so I'm guessing they're kind of tough, like a little centipede. Whereas the maggot ones are a lot squishier, but they do have, like, they do have, like, a head like a caterpillar with, like, little mandibles, so they're not all squishy.
So, you saying that makes me think of something you told me about Australia.
Uh-huh.
You guys have like street food.
Yep.
Can you describe some of the street food you have?
Well, there's a big Middle Eastern community here, so there's a lot of, like, falafel. There's also, like, churros. But I think what Sin has in mind is that we also sell fried caterpillars. The thing about the fried caterpillars is, like, they're a specific kind of caterpillar called a witchetty grub. I think they're not even technically a caterpillar. They like they they're beetle larvae, and they crawl underground to
Mm-hmm.
metamorphose into a beetle. They're quite big. They're like
Okay. Yeah.
they're quite a chunky sort of, like, grub thing. And yeah, the indigenous people here have historically eaten them because they're a very good source of protein. So if you can just,
Mm-hmm.
like, dig up the ground and find a witchetty grub, it's like, if you eat that, it's just a giant hunk of, like, bug protein for you. And yeah, some places here will specifically farm them to fry them and sell them. It's kind of like getting chicken nuggets.
Yeah. So the witchetty grub looks a little bit is reminiscent a little bit of the vermin.
Yeah, and the vermin that are in the back of the bloodletting beast, like, they do seem to apparently grow wings at some point in their life cycle.
Uh-huh.
It's weird because, like, there's a gigantic single grub that doesn't have wings, but then there's little tiny ones that do have wings, almost like it's a fictional creature that doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
obey a specific life cycle.
Do you think the bag lady Jennifer
Yeah.
could expand her coffee stand business by selling like deep fried vermin?
I mean, didn't we establish she was positioned, like, under the clinic at one point?
Yes. Yeah, she
Yeah, because
was.
that's where there's vermin, so maybe those are hers.
Oh my god. So she has a little vermin farm. Okay. And we established that the giants love her brand of coffee the most. So maybe that's why they're there. They're just
And
waiting for
there's
her
another
to
giant
open.
with candles on its back that's used to cook things.
The furnace. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The stove. Yeah. No, the
yeah,
stove is a different thing. But yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Hello everybody, this is Ebrooitus. For those of you enjoying the episode, please remember to stretch, snack, and hydrate. If any references didn't make sense to you, ask your nearest cultist. And now, back to the podcast.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. Now, the vermin. What do they eat?
I think they eat blood.
Ew.
Oh, now the game is gross. I was fine having a parasitic maggot living in my body, but then I found out what it is. And I was not happy.
Oof. Okay, wait a minute, Sophie.
Yeah.
I remember watching an episode of Tyra Banks many years ago where she had like people on or something that were like dieting or whatever, but they did it by having like a worm in their body.
Oh, a tapeworm, yeah.
Yeah. And you're telling me that these guys are also inside creatures' bodies. So could it be, Sophie, that we have misconstrued the lore and that actually these vermins are used as a dieting device?
Well, Miyazaki likes ambiguity, as we all know. So, we can picture Miyazaki perhaps watching Tyra Banks and being inspired by that.
Wait, the silver beasts, are they quite slender?
Yeah. They are, yeah.
So
it's working.
Maybe that's how they're keeping their physique,
I see.
Now, the next question is you have to ask yourself, why do they need to keep that physique, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my boyfriend and I are watching this really cool boxing anime.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a prototype or a rip-off, whatever, Katekyo Hitman Reborn, because a lot of the characters are the same.
Is it Hajime no Ippo?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay,
that's the one. So there's a Tsuna, there's a Hibari, there's like a lot of things.
This is like when the guy did that Bloodborne is Joseph Campbell video, but didn't know the names of the stages of the hero's journey, so he just used the scenes from Star Wars. So it's like, this is a great bar scene. You're like that with shonen anime, where it's like, this is the Tsuna, this is the Hibari.
Yes.
This is the Ryohei.
This is a Ryohei, literally, because Ryohei is a boxer. Okay, but what we learned from this anime is that boxing has weight categories, right?
You learned that from an anime?
And what happens
Do you not pick it up by osmosis when they're like heavyweight champion?
So what happens is, like, there was like this episode where like the boxer had to like really cut down his food to get into like the weight range.
Yep.
Which makes me think that the silver beasts are boxers. And they're trying to get into the lightweight category. Sophie, that means the Nightmare Frontier is their boxing club.
I think that's what the amygdala arena is, because it's just like this big circle. And when the crawlers raise up and do this, they're actually cheering.
Yeah, they're the cheerleaders. There we go. The amygdala could be like the referee. That's why when you go
into the arena, he's jumping down. He's like, that's not allowed.
Exactly. Like, get out. Right now.
Like, sir, there's a fog wall behind me. Fucking get out.
Now, the question is, you would know the answer to this because you know everything. Which enemies are silver beasts like aggroed by?
They're actually affected by the menses brain. When it does its like glowing thing, if they're in the path, they'll get frenzied.
So the menses brain, which is located in another part, is another boxing club. So they will be fighting Murgo's attendants. And Murgo's attendants are like smaller, right?
Well, there's small ones and big ones.
Okay, so this lets us know that they're fighting the small ones when we meet them.
This might be a good time to bring up that, like, after we did our Bloodborne iceberg last year, a bunch of people messaged me to say that we hadn't talked about a character who they were just calling the Pooping Man.
What is that?
No, one of the Murgo's attendants in the Nightmare of Men says it won't aggro on you.
Okay.
It has a different AI script, and it just wanders around not hurting you, but it drops items behind it.
Yeah, I know, because he's trying to lure you.
I thought he might be like the refreshment stand.
Oh my god. Yes,
Yeah.
we're back in the theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
The refreshment stand, exactly.
Why is no one talking about this? We need to talk about the Pooping Man.
Explained.
The Pooping Man explains everything.
Thank you, Sophie.
I think this is important, right? Because they're connected to, like, the blood drunkenness, which makes you crave blood. So it's almost like the craving for blood is manifesting as this, like, parasite thing that is living in your body that is itself craving blood. We talked about this single. Have we done Silver Beasts yet?
Yes, we did. Episode 24.
Okay. Oh, great. That must have been like 5 years ago. So, I don't know if we brought it up, but there is a single silver beast in the Nightmare Frontier that behaves differently to the others. The silver beasts in the Nightmare Frontier, they all start on their hind legs, right? And when you take them down to half health, they throw the torch away and they go down on all fours like an animal and try to fight you differently, right? Well, there's one silver beast that starts on all fours. And it is found, like, directly on top of a corpse that has blood vials on it. So it's like that one silver beast, like, it got to taste some blood and it reverted to an animal state immediately instead of needing to be hurt to do it. So it's like you can see that, like the silver beasts seem to be the equivalent of, like, the large huntsman in Yharnam.
Okay.
I'm assuming at some point they used to just be people. And they're transforming and they're not quite there yet, but if you either, like, hurt them enough or they get a taste for blood, they will tip over into just being an animal.
Very cool. Thank you, Sophie.
The parasites presumably eating blood, but also making them crave blood. So it's like the vermin are a physical manifestation of wanting to consume blood, basically.
Okay. Thank you, Sophie. May you please tell me, what are their hobbies and pastimes?
They seem to... Well, they live in your throat. I'm assuming they can reproduce based on all of the ones in the Bloodletting Beast's back. That's another, like, Australian thing. The Bloodletting Beast's back, like, that looks like when animals get fly blown. I don't know if you're familiar with fly blown. You know how the Bloodletting Beast has a big wound on its back and it's got the little things, like, living and reproducing in it? That's a thing that can happen to animals. It happens to sheep a fair bit, where they'll get some sort of wound, it will get infected, and then the flesh will start dying and they will get fly eggs laying in the wound. So you'll have sheep that are alive, but they have this, like, kind of colony of maggots living in their body that are turning into flies.
What the fuck? Let's move on to where. Okay. Can you tell me, where do they come from, where are they now, and where are they going?
Well, they come from man's corruption. They're described as arising from, like, the fact that people's blood is corrupted.
Okay.
Which, again, ties into, like, the whole maggot thing we've discussed, because there was a theory that, like, a very long time ago, that, like, maggots spontaneously generated in rotten meat because they didn't understand that flies were laying eggs in them. So it was believed that, like, maggots would spontaneously generate. So it's a similar thing to that. It's like the vermin are just, like we've been saying, it's like the vermin are an outward sign that the blood is being corrupted and that you are starting to crave blood. So it's manifesting as these maggots, but it's not like you get vermin in you and that makes your blood bad or something like that. It's like this is all one interconnected system where the corruption of the blood is manifesting as the vermin, and the vermin are like making you crave blood, but that's feeding the vermin. And then they're not like phantasms.
Oh no.
Because phantasms can live in your eyeball, and your eyeball's fine. This is the other thing about vermin, right? They draw a comparison between vermin and phantasms.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
you get phantasms in your body specifically. Like the milkweed rune lets phantasms live inside you. You can even do a little attack where you vomit a cloud of slugs at people.
Right.
But like this specific thing I wanted to talk about was the 2 eyeballs in the DLC, because you get the eye of a blood drunk hunter, right, which is someone who's got vermin in them and they've become drunk with blood, and that eyeball has collapsed inward on itself. It's like a rotten sort of piece of fruit. Like the center's disappeared and it's just like this sort of mass of like jelly. But then the black sky eye, which you also get in the DLC, that is another eyeball, and that eyeball is swimming with slugs. And it specifies, like, yeah, this eyeball that's full of slugs, it's fresh and it's firm, and it's like it's in very good condition. So it's like there's 2 ways this can go. Like, it's not that like symbiosis or parasitism or whatever is innately a bad thing. It's just like in one direction it becomes the vermin and these like ticks and centipedes and maggots and things that are like destroying your body and destroying your mind and eating you from the inside out. And in the other direction, you've got like the phantasms, where you form this like, I guess, less parasitic, more symbiotic connection with these little slugs that...
Little slugs?
She made a face. With these little slugs that sort of like expand your like understanding. They're like these little slugs that will like allow you to like see into deep space or like connect with the cosmos or something like that. So it's not anti-parasitism.
Sophie, if little slugs could talk, what would they say?
Yes. I cannot tell a lie. Having phantasms in your body is much better for you than having vermin. I am your friend. I will help you reach the outer regions of the cosmos with your mind.
Oh, thank you, little slug. Life is better. Life is good again. Thank you, little slug.
I pointed out to Sin that if you look at her ranking of From Software games versus the number of dragons, her appreciation of the game dramatically increases the closer the number of dragons gets to 0. It's like Bloodborne is her favourite because there's no dragons. Elden Ring is her least favourite because there's, I think, 25.
Like, why would you even need 25 dragons?
It's really just 3 dragons over and over again.
Let's move on to why. Please classify into a category. Are they outsider, Yarnamite, bourgeoisie, beast, kin, great one?
I'm going to say that they're connected to beasts. Like, I don't think you can have vermin without beasts. And they don't really fit any of the other categories. So I'm going to say that they're a beast.
Okay. Thank you,
They're
Sophie.
an integral part of beasts without being beasts.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Sophie. Now, what's their purpose or mission? What are they protecting? Why are they attacking us, etc.?
Their purpose or mission is that they like eating blood. And they're attacking us because we have blood or we've interrupted them eating blood.
So essentially, we're the problem here.
Yeah.
I feel like we're a big problem. We'll literally go into the Nightmare Frontier and those frontiers and just attack people who are there.
Bloodborne would have been so much deeper if when you get to 99 Insight, it turns out you were the beast all along.
Sophie, do the outro.
That was What, Where, Why, episode... She hasn't even written it down.
60-something? 60s? 63? 62?
Yeah. This is, What, Where, Why, episode 62 and a half. And it's about Vermin, who Vermin were not originally on the list, but we realized that the Vermin episode we did was taken down for reasons we will not be discussing. And, we decided to add it here, so that's all about Vermin.
Well, we learned a lot, we laughed, we cried.
I didn't learn anything.
Oh, thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sen.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and see you all next time.